And then how to keep your body safe during yoga. Okay, so this is really important. A lot of times, like, we really feel like, especially when the teacher says, okay, put your hand, all the way down to the mat. But what if you have really short arms and you can't reach? So then you're gonna contort your spine, gonna twist over, and you're all like hunched, right? And then you can't really breathe easily. And you should really be trying the best you can to like not obstruct your airways. So you want to be able to have as much capability of breath as you can. So these days we have all these really cool tools. Within reason, just like make sure the tools you use are respectful and don't really distract you too much. So like a foam block or something is great. Chairs, things like that. Probably not like a goat or a beer, but like, a block is all good. Obviously in ancient times they didn't have like a cool foam block, and a lot of times they just kind of made do with what they could do. And yeah, but everyone has a different body, and especially like we're like all over the world doing yoga now, and there's like different like skeletal structures that are more popular in different parts of the world. Like for instance, like I'm just gonna go ahead and sit in an L shape so we can talk about my body, your body too. Like I'm looking at my ankles now with my legs straight out in front of me. I'm just gonna see how far I can bend my ankles to out or in, right? I can't really go very far out. Some people, and I'm just trying to move the ankle, right? So I'm not trying to move my knees. Some people can go all the way down. So they're gonna have an easier time in poses that I won't have an easier time in. Yeah, so you just have to find your edge. Some people are really hypermobile, which means that they have to just kind of like figure out where their edge is. And when I say edge, it's like how far you can go without it being painful. But if you're hypermobile, you have to take a few steps back, because it's really easy to injure yourself if you go too far when you're hypermobile. If you don't yet have like the strength yet, you're just gonna go whoosh. So with my legs straight out in front of me, I'm gonna take my hands and feel under my knees. I'm gonna inhale and pull my toes up. So I'm really stretching my hamstrings, my legs. And I'm gonna see with my hands if I can slide my hands under my knees or not, or my fingers under my knees. If I can, cool. If I cannot, if my knees go all the way down to the mat, that means I have hypermobility. And that means I need to be really, really careful in some of these like forward bends and like anything where you're like bending your knees a lot. You need to be really careful. Same thing, it just like kind of go through your body, and you can even compare with a friend and see like what your range of motion is. Some of it you can change over time. Some of it you can't change. Like if you look at my hands, okay, so as I'm sitting with straight posture, I'm gonna let my fingertips touch the mat, and you'll notice that there is space between my heels of my hands and the mat. Most people can put their hands flat on the mat. They have perfect proportion. But if I do that, I'm hunching and rounding my back. If I grab a block, it's too tall for me and now my shoulders are hunched up. You might have the opposite problem. You might have long arms. So depending on like your structure, you need to figure out how to have the straight posture, what you can do with your hands. So for me, I put my fingertips down and that works. For other people, they might make fists. For people with really like long arms, they're just gonna put their hands forward or backwards or out to the sides. They're gonna figure out where they can still maintain that straight posture. You can also sit on a block if you have really long arms. So just like figure out what your proportions are. It's kind of weird, right? Like I never even noticed half this stuff till I started doing yoga. Same thing with your neck, right? Like can you go all the way back, all the way down? So once you've kind of figured out some things and just had that like moment of realness with yourself, you might want to get a block. So for certain postures, like because my arms are so short, it's really, really hard for me to keep to not round my spine. And if I do them without a block, I'll have obstructed my airway. I can do the posture, but I'm not able to breathe as easily. Another thing that happens when we overcompensate and don't use a block if we need one, or is that over time, all this overcompensation, twisting, we can like cause injuries for ourselves. Like not the first time, But over like a couple years of just like overcompensating to try to twist into something that we can't yet do, then we can cause injuries. So when you take a yoga class, if the teacher says to raise your arms up, like raise your arms up, what you need to be doing is just listening to your own self. Like, okay, I'm going to try to raise my arms up. This is where it feels good. So this is where you stay. You know, don't try to overextend. Especially if you have a shoulder injury, maybe you're just going to try to elongate your spine instead of raising your arms up. Maybe this is where you are. So in my mind, I'm raising my arms up, but maybe just like, maybe I have a dislocated shoulder or something. There's some reason that like I just can't raise my arms up. Same thing with like forward folds. You want to just keep your back straight when you're going down. You don't want to be hunched. You want to keep your spine straight as you go forward. And that might mean maybe you're just going to lay on a bolster or something to keep your spine straight. The thing is about taking yoga classes either on YouTube or in a studio is that you only need a few weeks of training to be a certified yoga teacher in the United States, and I think the UK as well. You only need a few weeks. In a few weeks, you're not going to learn about different types of bodies. You're not going to learn to prevent injuries. So being able to like do the splits and handstands and stuff is really cool, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really help you teach. You really do need to get more training. These days, you can get a lot of training online, virtually. I really, really highly recommend that everyone who wants to teach yoga invest in getting the full 500 hours and just get continuous education. Same thing goes for prenatal yoga. If you want to teach prenatal yoga, go get a certification because there's a lot of things you can do in yoga that can cause injuries to someone expecting a baby. Yeah, they're really not that expensive to get and you'll learn a lot. You can do it virtually. Yeah, definitely. And if you are an expecting parent and you're pregnant, like definitely check what kind of like certifications your yoga teacher has because you want that extra certification because you want to keep the baby safe, you want to keep yourself safe. Segueing into balance issues. Balance is a very complex beast. Our vestibular systems are what controls our balance. So this is like if you have like it's all to do with your legs, your trunk, so it's your torso, your eyesight, your hearing, and your emotions. These are all like contributing to your balance. So if I have an injured foot, I'm going to have a hard time balancing. If I have a weak core, I'll have a hard time balancing. If I'm deaf, not all deaf people, but there's certain forms of deafness where it's really hard to balance. Same thing with eyesight. There's certain things with eyesight, like if your eyes shake, that's going to be really hard to balance. If there's big overhead lights in the studio, that's going to be difficult for people to balance, right? So just really making sure, if you're a yoga teacher, when you are talking about balance poses, to help people really ground into their foot first. Whenever you're taking a yoga class, you want to make sure that your foundation is really solid. So right now, I'm on all fours. My hands are under my shoulders, my knees are under my hips. So this is my foundation. My knees and my hands are what's holding me up. So I need to make sure they're in a good alignment. I need to make sure that my fingers are evenly spaced. I really need to pay attention to whatever the base is of my yoga pose. So now I'm going to come to malasana or a yogi squat. And now my feet are going to be the base of this posture. They're pointed out slightly. I have my knees locked into my elbows, my hands in prayer position. So like just depending what, yoga pose you're doing. If you're doing crow, right, your hands are going to be under your shoulders, fingertips spread wide, pointed forward, sliding your knees above your upper arms. I'm just going to lift my legs up. Right, so then my hands are the foundation. If I'm standing, right, so I'm going to come into triangle. So then my heel needs to be in line with my inner arch of my left foot, straightening my right leg, taking my arms out at my sides, really trying to straighten my torso, making sure my arms are in alignment. Right, so my feet really need to be the right distance because they're supporting me. Then I'm just going to take my arms and slide down. And you'll notice that because my arms are so short, I'm a little bit wonky here, right? Maybe I could walk my leg out a little bit. I also have a little bit of scoliosis. At the end of the day, it's not about making shapes. It's about how your body feels, right? So for some people, if you're in Baddha Konasana, and you want to lean forward, so your feet are together, your knees are bent, cobbler pose, bound angle pose. I'm holding my feet, I'm straightening my spine. Inhaling, exhaling, falling forward, right? So for some people, I've moved an inch. That's their stretch. Other people, all the way forward, right? So it really just depends on your body. And over time, you might gain more flexibility. You might gain less flexibility. That's like the miracle and the magic of having a body, is that it's very unpredictable. So I hope this was helpful. Have fun practicing your yoga. Be mindful, love yourself, explore, and see you in Zoom. Bye.